Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Sports 2.0 show. I am your host today, Akshay Kumbar, and with me is Jaya Williams and Grant Mitchell. We've got a great show for you here today. We're going to be talking about the best offenses in the NFL going into this 2021 season. Before we begin, though, I just want to say subscribe to the Sports 2.0 network. We just reached 400 subscribers. We're really growing at a rapid pace. We love to see this growth. We've got great content for you on this show and this network. So, let's go ahead and get started, Jaya, with your pick. You have the reigning defending Super Bowl champion, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Why do you like this team as the best offense?
I think this is just the obvious pick, you guys. Obviously, the Buccaneers were on top last season, trying to go and get that title for this year again. They just have the firepower. This team, they're returning with all of their starters on both sides of the ball, and that's a huge advantage, I think, for them because they know each other. They have that veteran experience, and they'll be able to work together even more easily than last season, most likely. Of course, they have Tom Brady, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback. He just performs under pressure and has proven time and time again that he can handle those stressful situations on the field and stay cool. And they just have that veteran experience, like I said. So I feel like they're really going to be able to use that to their advantage. Now, they did struggle to find their mojo at first during that regular season. They were sitting at 7-5 in the NFC South, but from that point forward, they really turned on the Jets, finished out the season with an 8-game winning streak, and I feel like they're going to be able to do that even easier this season because their schedule is a lot easier. So that's why I think the Bucs.
Grant, you have any objections to that, or do you think that the Bucs have a top offense again?
No objections from me. I don't know they'll be number one. I feel like that spot is annually reserved for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I do think they're going to be pretty amazing. Jay mentioned it. They're returning every starter on both sides of the ball. That's the first time that's ever happened in the Super Bowl era to a defending champion. They also brought in Gio Bernard, which I feel like, even though he hasn't had the greatest career, will be very important for Tom Brady on those third down passing situations, because even though Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, mix the two up there, even though they were productive catching the ball out of the backfield in the playoffs, that's not what they do by trade. But Gio Bernard is that guy. He's that Jonas Gray, James White kind of figure that Tom Brady's used to having in the backfield. So I think they're going to have another great year this year.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. If there's one thing I learned of being a Jets fan all my life is that you can never, count out Tom Brady at any point in his career. Even though he's, like 42 right now, he's still, one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, has, a great offensive line, huge outside targets in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, excellent running game. I think they're definitely a top offense. But, as you guys mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs obviously, would be the number one pick. Jay, this is also your next team as the best offense in 2021. Obviously, they have Patrick Mahomes, but, what makes this offense so special?
Well, the Chiefs rebuilt their offensive line very different from the Bucs. Their offensive line is largely newer, and I think that can be both an advantage and a disadvantage. But like you said, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce, they combine for the highest quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, win share trifecta in the league. I mean, these guys are just an insane combination. And not only them, they've just had new additions like Orlando Brown Jr., Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey alone make them a considerable leap in any roster evaluation, if you ask me. And their performance from last season is proof enough that they're going to definitely be a strong contender this year as well.
Grant, do you have anything you want to add on that?
They got Patrick Mahomes. That's all you need to know. He's already the best player in NFL history. That's what I'll say. He's not as accomplished as Tom Brady or Joe Montana or others. Don't get me wrong. But if you look at him, there has never been a player that has played football better than what he is doing. But yeah, one thing I think is going to be very cool to see is Mecole Hardman as the number 2 receiver next year. We know Sammy Watkins is out of town. And, he has all the talent in the world, but he stays injured. Whereas Mecole Hardman, he's sort of following a Tyreek Hill trajectory, if you want to look at it. He comes in as a very coveted prospect, makes his name on special teams, gets moved into like the number 2, number 3 spot as a wide receiver, super, super fast. And now, as he's getting better and better, he moves up in the depth chart. Obviously, he's not going to take Tyreek Hill's spot at number 1, but he's going to have a much more prominent role, and I think he's going to deliver big time this year.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you had to say. Jaya, you hinted at it with their rebuilding of the O-line. We saw, unfortunately, a lot of their O-line, their 2 starting tackles got injured in the playoffs, and in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was running for his life, throwing passes, parallel to the ground at times. So, with that rebuild, I think that they are easily the number 1 offense this year. Definitely, Super Bowl contenders for sure. And I think that, in my opinion, I think they'll actually win the Super Bowl. They're, the best team right now. Grant said it, Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football. It's really hard to stop, such a generational talent like him. It's crazy to see, Yeah,
and I like that Grant brought up Hardman because I hadn't even really thought about Hardman, but he is definitely one of the more explosive athletes at the wide receiver position for sure. I think he has a really rare combination of just like speed, quickness, and he's very explosive. So that's definitely somebody to watch out for.
Yeah. All right. Well, Grant, you have 2 surprise teams here. Obviously, not as well known as the Buccaneers and Chiefs, but we'll start with your first one here. You have the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC West, along with the Chiefs. Why do you like the Chargers?
Yeah, so if before we get into their offense, if we just look at their team as a whole, I think the Chargers are one of the best bets, whether you want to make it as a hedge or an outright bet in the NFL, to take their division. Obviously, it's going to be dominated by the Chiefs, who are overwhelming favorites. But the Chargers were 12-4 a few years ago. They already have someone who was a top 10 quarterback in his rookie season in Justin Herbert. He was the highest graded quarterback under pressure, even though he was under pressure more than almost any quarterback in the league. Pressure, that throws off Tom Brady. And he was graded as a 99 out of 100 last season, which shows you how good he was. And in the offseason, the Chargers bring in Corey Linsley from the Packers, who we know has just had an incredible career. They've got Brian Bulaga on the right tackle, and they drafted Rashawn Slater with the 7th pick to go in at the left tackle. You pair Justin Herbert with Austin Eckler, who we thought he was going to be a drop-off from Melvin Gordon, but we found out he's probably more overall better. He can catch it and he can run it just about as well as any running back in the league. You've got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who are very good at what they do on the outside. Mike Williams, I think, is one of the more underrated receivers in the whole league. And even though he's old as dirt, Jared Cook at tight end, he's been very productive. He always has been. Even though he's not that fast anymore, somehow he always gets behind the defense. So I think this offense is going to absolutely explode with Herbert, the reigning rookie of the year.
Yeah, and Jaya, Grant just hinted at it. Herbert just coming off a rookie of the year season, just beating out Justin Jefferson. What makes him so special that he can, perform under pressure, even in that, with that lack O-line that he had last season. Now they're rebuilding that.
I think Herbert just is unique in the fact that being at the center of the franchise, the front office understandably made improving that offensive line a priority. But like you just said, the fact that he was able to perform at the way that he did without that support of the offensive line just shows how talented he really is. So I'm definitely with Grant here. They're definitely an underdog to look out for. He was just constantly running for his life all season, and I think that's what made him stand out the most.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you both. And I think Justin Herbert's an incredible asset to this team. He's, one of the best young quarterbacks in the league right now. He adds so much, potential to that offense. They've got great running back in Austin Eckler. They've got great wideouts. Their defense is, somewhat decent. When they get Derwin James, they'll be a little bit more healthy and a little bit better. They are in the same division as the Chiefs, which is unfortunate, but I do think that they are a playoff team. They have one of the, top 15 offenses in the league already, even with that, terrible O-line last year. So I think they have a really good shot at, making a deep playoff run this year, especially with Justin Herbert, making his sophomore campaign. Hopefully he doesn't get that, slump that we see a lot of players have. Grant, you've got another surprise team here, in my opinion, the Washington football team. Why do you think they have a top offense?
Yeah, so I am super excited about this pick. I feel like this one could pay dividends here. First and foremost, you got Ryan Fitzmagic at quarterback. Now, I'm not saying he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to win MVP, but he is going to push the ball down the field, which is something that Washington had no success doing last season. If you look at their three quarterbacks that played in the regular season, Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, Alex Smith, none of them wanted to throw the ball more than 15 yards at maximum, and frankly, all of them were horrible. Alex Smith gets a pass because he had 85 surgeries, almost lost his leg. Comeback player of the year. Wish him all the best in retirement. He's going to be a legend in the NFL forever for coming back from what he came from. But none of them played well at all. And the team that gave the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the most trouble in their playoff run was the Washington football team with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. So if Heineke ends up getting the nod, we've seen Fitzmagic has gotten benched for the last few seasons on and off. If Heineke steps in, I feel like he can do a decent enough job. But with the weapons that are on this offense, I mean, you look around, you got Terry McLaurin, who's one of the, can we say, 10 best young receivers in the NFL, Curtis Samuel, another 4.3 40 guy, and Adam Humphries, who was super reliable in the slot for most of his career. You take Diami Brown with your early selection, had more long ball touchdowns than anyone else in college football last season. Logan Thomas, who is a really solid tight end and still relatively new to the position, only getting better, had a career year last year, got a really good O-line with Brandon Sheriff leading that unit. I think this offense is going to be pretty close to amazing, and if not quite, they're still going to be great, in my opinion.
Yeah, Jaya, do you have any opinions about that? You disagree with him on anything, or is it pretty much all set in stone with the Washington football team?
No, I don't disagree with Grant. I think that they're definitely going to be improved a lot. They're going to return with 4 of their 5 starters in 2021. So they're going to have, again, same thing with the Buccaneers. They're going to have some of that veteran experience. And like he said, Brandon Sheriff is looking really solid. They have a lot of guys that are looking really solid. So I definitely don't disagree with Grant.
Yeah. And one guy I forgot to mention while I was rambling was Antonio Gibson. Had 11 touchdowns and just under 800 yards in 14 games in his first season as a running back. He caught more balls than he ran when he was in college at Memphis. And I want to say he was the highest graded rookie running back last year. For a guy who's this is his first time ever playing that position, that's just incredible. And what we know about a Ron Rivera team is they are tough, they're well coached, and with another year of experience together, but still being a young group, I feel like they're going to have that mentality of we're young, we're getting better, and nobody can stop us. And, if anyone manifests that, it's Chase Young. And with the year he had last year, I think the whole team is going to be inspired to do really well this year.
Yeah, I think Gibson, he's one of those players that can really make an impact from several different positions. So it's going to be exciting to see how he performs.
Yeah, I agree. I think, in my opinion, I think the Washington football team's defense is a little bit better than their offense. But, I mean, that's, having a great defense definitely is a huge confidence boost to anybody playing on offense. And I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, with his veteran experience, is going to help that team grow. I think he'll, Taylor Heineke, even if Ryan Fitzpatrick, God forbid, gets injured, they have a solid backup in Tyler Heineke, who, had one of the best playoff games, we've ever seen, almost took down Tom Brady, for Christ's sake. So, I mean, this team has a lot of potential, and especially in the weakest division of football, in my opinion. The NFC East is just god-awful. But, they have a lot – there's a lot of good, things coming out of Washington right now. So I think that they have a really good offense. So I'm agree with you, Grant, here. You've changed my mind about the Washington football team.
That's all I'm here to do. Let's go.
All right, well, I'm going to move into, speaking of the NFC East, I'll move into my pick here. I have the Dallas Cowboys as the best offense. And Obviously they had their struggles last year when Dak Prescott got injured. They really weren't performing, to the best of their abilities, even when Dak Prescott was playing. That's mostly because of their defense, in my opinion. I think their offense was great then, and even with Andy Dalton at quarterback, and Ben DiNucci for starting that one game, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, they all had great seasons. I really think that they have the best wide receiver, one of the best receiver cores in the NFL right now. They have speed, they have great route running. And adding back Dak Prescott, who's an MVP caliber player, that just adds so much confidence to that offense. Obviously, their offensive line is going through a lot of problems right now, a lot of retirements, injuries. But I think once they finally, get that built back up, I think they'll be, a top 5 offense. Not to mention that they have Ezekiel Elliott, who, obviously thrives on a great O-line. But, he still can get the job done at any point in the game. So I think that the Dallas Cowboys have a top 5 offense already with the return of Dak Prescott. Grant, what do you think about this? Are you thinking Dak Prescott doesn't really make that much of a difference and the O-line really struggles, or do you think the Cowboys are a top 5 offense again?
I don't know about top 5. Top 10 I'd be comfortable saying, because I have a lot of faith in Dak Prescott as a statistician, maybe a guy who can put up numbers. I don't think Dallas is going to be anything special in the win column this season. We saw that I think he led the league in passing yards, if I'm not mistaken, when they had a losing record. So I think it could be more the same. Ezekiel Elliott, you mentioned, at this point he's serviceable, which is absurd to say since he's on a $100 million+ contract. I think Tony Pollard, honestly, could be receiving a big increase in his work in his second season. You saw some inconsistency, but that happens, A, as a rookie, and B, when you're not on the field with any sort of regularity. But I think he could take a step up in the order here. They've got, you would say they had the best receiving core in football. Maybe now it's number 2 behind the Cardinals, but these guys are still amazing. Top 10 offense. I'm cool with that.
Jay, you have any objections with that, or you pretty much agree?
No, I think I agree with you, Akshay. I wouldn't count the Cowboys out at all. And like you said, I think their biggest asset is really their wide receivers. They have, arguably like some of the best receivers in the league, with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup being their strongest, if you ask me. And I think that it is like a big thing with Dak Prescott being injured and coming back, but they have a really good relationship, especially Amari Cooper. A majority of his catches, yards, touchdowns, they were all from Prescott. So his relationship with him was really off the charts. And then, CeeDee Lamb had an amazing rookie season. So I expect really good things from them as well. I'm not sure where exactly I would put them, but I would not count them out at all, for sure.
Yeah. All right. And, moving on to another, somewhat suspect team, not in so much in the win column last year, are the Atlanta Falcons, which is my second pick for best offense. Matt Ryan is just a great quarterback. I think he gets overlooked sometimes just because of how bad his defense is at times. But, last year he was 5th in passing yards, had 27 touchdowns. And, that was with wide receiver 1 Julio Jones being out for majority of the season. But, Calvin Ridley stepped up and really showed that he can be a wide receiver 1. And now that Julio Jones is off in Tennessee, I think Calvin Ridley is going to, shine again. He had 1,300 yards, 90 receptions. And I think Russell Gage is another player who definitely can step up and be a wide receiver 2 for this team. Not to mention, with the 4th overall pick, they picked one of the best tight end prospect in college, in Kyle Pitts. He's just insane athlete. I think he's a matchup nightmare for anybody he's on. So I think he's definitely going to add so much more offensive potential to this team. Todd Gurley obviously didn't have a great season last year at all. Brian Smith, Ito Smith, Brian Hill and Ito Smith, those 2 guys, aren't really household names, but they definitely can get the job done in the red zone. I think this team definitely struggles running the ball. I think they'll need to, definitely fix that going into 2021. But with Arthur Smith calling the plays, back when he was at Tennessee, I think he'll definitely, spark up this offense a little bit more than we saw in 2020. Grant, what do you think?
I might have to go with the first disagreement of the show here. I think Matt Ryan is very capable of putting up numbers. He's he's had the Matthew Stafford problem of putting up really solid numbers for teams that haven't necessarily done well. And it's not always been his fault. He makes some ill-advised throws at times, but when you're on a bad team and you've got to make everything happen just by yourself, then that's bound to happen. You mentioned he had the fourth most passing yards in the league last year. I think that Calvin Ridley is a top 10 receiver in the league, or if not, he's just outside, but I would be comfortable putting him there at 10th. Russell Gage, like you mentioned, I do like the arrival of Mike Davis and Cordero Patterson at running back. There's just inconsistency at the running back spot. So teams are going to play Atlanta to throw the ball, which, it's okay for when you have a strong on quarterback, but he's getting on in age. Kyle Pitts obviously is going to be a stud. I don't think Atlanta's offense is going to be terrible, but I think there's just going to be a lot of inconsistency with the running game and the O-line. Too much for them to overcome to be truly one of the best, in my opinion.
Jaya, do you agree with Grant here, or you on the Falcons?
I am feeling a little bit iffy about the Falcons as well, just because of the uncertainty. I feel like there's just there's a lot more uncertainty. They don't have that solidification that I feel like I could be super confident, but they do have, Pitts is joining a receiving core that includes, Calvin Ridley and obviously Julio Jones. And, he's a solid quarterback. Matt Ryan is definitely a solid quarterback, but I'm just not sure what the dynamic is going to be. I think that they're going to have a little bit more trial and error, that I'm not as confident in their offense as I am in some of the other NFL teams. But I do think that we are going to see a lot of improvement.
Okay. Well, my last pick, hopefully you guys agree with me here. I have the Buffalo Bills. I think they are, as a Jets fan, it pains me to say that, but I think they have a really great offense. That Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs combination is really deadly. They really, made a huge, bond over there in Buffalo. They've, exceeded all expectations. I think wide receivers like Cole Beasley are definitely underrated. John Brown, Gabriel Davis definitely stepped up big time for the Bills as well. Their running game wasn't really that great. Devin Singletary didn't have, a great year, but I still think that they have a really good shot at, being a top offense again. And, Josh Allen is a MVP caliber quarterback. I stand by that. I think he's one of the best in the NFL right now. And I think he's going to have a great, third year, in my opinion. So this is, his time to shine. This is really his division to lose. And I think that they have a really good shot at making the Super Bowl with this offense. Jaya, what do you think? You agree with me, or,
No, yeah, I have a lot of faith in the Buffalo Bills. I think that they look so solid from just a lot of things that you said. A lot of you guys know that I have a lot of faith in Stephon Diggs. If you don't remember from that first Shot Clock episode, I said that he has a chance to win MVP, which was a bold statement from me, but I still stick by what I said. He had 127 receptions, 12 yards a catch, number 2 seed in the AFC. He's definitely a very strong player, and I only expect him to get even stronger, as well as a lot of the other players that you just mentioned. I definitely think that they have playoff potential 100%. I'm with you, Akshay.
Grant, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, they're absolutely going to win this division, barring an injury to Josh Allen. And even then, you have Mitchell Trubisky. Who knows? Maybe he's going to be the second coming of Peyton Manning. Maybe he's going to be the second coming. Maybe he's going to be the second coming of Nick Foles when he was with the Chiefs. You never know what's going to happen with him. But the Bills as a whole, I'm not sold on Stephon Diggs for MVP, but his value to the team is incredible. We saw Josh Allen make the jump. It's not a coincidence that coincided with them bringing in Diggs. You've also got Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley lining up next to him, which is just another great top 5 maybe receiving trio in this league. Devin Singletary, I actually really like. I don't think he gets a ton of volume, and that's by design. I think if he did, he could put up good numbers, but he's a power guy. He's capable of scoring in the red zone, and if they don't give it to him, Josh Allen can run it in easily because he's so big and strong. The one weak spot on this roster, on the offense at least, is obviously the tight end Dawson Knox. We don't really have too much on him. He's been the guy at the professional level, so that would be the one thing that I would be a little worried about. But just by virtue of how many games they're going to win and how many points they're going to score, Bills absolutely have one of the best offenses in the league.
Yep. All right. So we've established, all of our, basic, top offenses. We'll go into some sleeper picks here that not a lot of people would, expect, but definitely can make some noise. We'll start off here with the Arizona Cardinals. Grant, why do you like the Cardinals here?
Yeah, so this is actually a joint pick from myself and Jaya. We're both high on Arizona here. Kyler Murray was getting better in his second year. Injury kind of derailed that. But we know that he's just an incredible talent, super fast, has a very strong arm, even though he's 5'6" or however tall he is. Chase Edmonds in the backfield, I like, and partnering him with James Conner, I think is great. I think they're both sort of inconsistent, but so you can almost play them game to game. You're the number. You got it rolling today. You're going to be the number one. You got it rolling. You're going to be the number one the next week. And then the wide receiving core. I mean, are we being serious? You've got DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Christian Kirk. Rondale Moore, who was a combine standout, who they brought in. He's a little short guy, but he can run till the wheels fall off. That offensive line, they got better. They added Rodney Hudson, who's made Pro Bowls in his day. So yeah, I really like the Cardinals here.
Jaya, this was your joint pick with Grant. Why do you like the Cardinals here?
Yeah, I like the Cardinals for the same reasons that he does. I think the acquisition of Rodney Hudson was a really pleasant surprise for them. I'm really expecting him to do a lot. And DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, come on. DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, we all know what these guys can do. And like he said, Kyler Murray has so much potential. I think his ability to throw off platform, and I mean, Arizona's rate of sacks per pass, I think they ranked like 25th, and then they jumped up to 8th in 2020. So they've been making those strides in the right direction. I think that as a team, they do have some inconsistencies, but I think that they're going to be able to develop those together. And I'm really just liking the dynamic of their different players on offense. So that's why I have a lot of faith in them for this upcoming season.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think that the Cardinals have a very good offense. The one thing I would say is a weak point in their offense is the tight end position, similar to the Bills. They don't really have a big name tight ends, but in an offense where Kyler Murray definitely runs triple options a lot, it's not so much necessity for him to be receiving. They definitely use tight ends to block, and I think that if they have tight ends that can block well, that offense will flourish no matter what. It's going to be a little bit difficult knowing that they're in the NFC West. All four teams have incredible defenses, so it's hard. It'll be hard for them to make the playoffs, obviously. But they do have a great offense. I really like Kyler Murray as a player. A lot of people were hesitant on him, although he is a Heisman winner. So you can't really doubt that, in my opinion. He is a little bit undersized, but he can make any deep throw, and no matter how much pressure there is. And we saw that with that Hail Murray, against the Bills. So it's really all theirs for the taking. I just there's that question at tight end, and then also Cliff Kingsbury's play calling towards the second half of games if he's trailing. It's a little bit questionable, but I think that they have a really good offense and definitely can make some noise in the NFC. And Jaya, we'll go with your sleeper pick here. There's a lot of controversy going on here, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers not showing up for OTAs and stuff. But you still think that they have a sleeper offense with or without him?
Well, I wouldn't say that they have a sleeper offense without him, but I mean, it does depend very much on whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to be their quarterback. But should he stay, which there is still a chance that he could stay, and should he do that, I think that, I mean, he's the reigning league MVP and he has amazing pace. We all know what Aaron Rodgers can bring to the table. So should Aaron Rodgers stick with the Packers, I think that Green Bay is going to be in really good shape, obviously. Should he not be there, I don't think they're in a horrible position. They still have, Devontae Adams is a great wide receiver, Aaron Jones, a great running back. They drive up the value of this team with top 5 or better on and off ball impact ratings. So I do think that they have they have a lot of solid players even without Rodgers, but should Rodgers stay as well, I think that they're going to be in really good shape. So that's why I put them as my sleeper team.
Grant, you think that, if Aaron Rodgers would stay, they'd be a good offense?
Yeah, and I really like them as a sleeper team because I don't think people necessarily think of the Packers as having an incredible offense. Ever since Matt LaFleur got there and Rodgers, he was on that slip. Obviously, he rebounded incredibly last year. But it was very trendy to say that the Packers were boring or they're not that good or Rodgers doesn't have it anymore, even though they won 13 games 2 back-to-back seasons and Rodgers put up MVP stats. That's why he won MVP last year. Devontae Adams set the record for most touchdowns from a wide receiver in a season, even though he didn't play the full season last year. LeVard and Valdez-Scantling, not household names, but very solid players. Robert Tonyan, Aaron Rodgers talked about how he's great at tight end. So even though those aren't big-name players, they've become really productive, and I'm sure they benefited from being with an all-time great like Rodgers. But regardless of the controversy going on, Rodgers manifests that himself. It's not going to throw him off of his game. If he does stay, Green Bay is definitely going to be one of the elite offenses again.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Aaron Rodgers, definitely, improves that offense. Which is surprising, considering that the front office really hasn't drafted a first-round offensive talent outside of Jordan Love for the past, however many years, and they're still this good. Just goes to show you, how much Aaron Rodgers really brings out in all those people. I think that Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are a very good duo at the running back position. They bring a lot of power and a lot of speed. Obviously, Devontae Adams is great, and they've got some great, offensive threats. And, and Robert Tonyan as well. I think he's one of, I think he's a top tight end that a lot of people definitely overlook. And their O-line's, going to be healthy again. They lost David Bakhtiari at the beginning of the playoffs, which definitely hurt them a lot, especially in that NFC Championship where that incredible Bucs D-line was forcing pressure nonstop. But, I think, with or without Aaron Rodgers, his team still has a sleeper offense. They've got Blake Bortles, Jordan Love, who's been, under Aaron Rodgers' wing. Surely he can't be that bad that he, becomes a detrimental part to this offense. Surely, he'll have, some skill considering he went in first round when he was drafted. So I agree. I agree with you guys. I think that they are a sleeper team here, with or without Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to move on to my sleeper pick here, which is a surprise to most, but it's the Indianapolis Colts. And, they were a great offense last year. Jonathan Taylor was second in rushing yards behind Derrick Henry last year as a rookie. They've got a great offensive line in Quentin Nelson, who leads the way. Nyheim Hines, they're going to get Marlon Mack back. So those are 3, very good and underrated running backs. Not to mention that they are bringing in Carson Wentz from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to be paired up with the same offensive coordinator that he was in the MVP running back in 2017. So I think that, with him, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman, I think that this team has a very good shot at being a top offense, especially in that AFC South division where defense isn't really a strong suit, in my opinion. They have a really good shot at being a good offense. And I think a lot of people are going to overlook them, and that's why they're going to succeed. Grant, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I think is going to be the best part of India in this offense is, it's not sexy to say, but it's their offensive line. And they're led by Quentin Nelson, who in 3 years has allowed 1 sack. coming in as a full-time starter as a rookie. Like, that is just ridiculous. They allowed the fewest sacks in the league last year. Quentin Nelson, obviously, I just mentioned, leading the line from left guard. These guys are unbelievable. And the reason that Wentz has struggled in recent years is because he hasn't had protection. So I think some of the judgments and criticisms he received were unjust. We saw how good he was when you mentioned it, when he had Frank Reich with him. They ended up winning the Super Bowl that year anyway without him, which is a testament to Reich and the other players on the team. So now that they're paired together, and he'll enjoy the best protection he's ever had, even if the skill positions aren't of the highest tier, which I think we can agree they aren't. T.Y. Hilton isn't the same guy that we once thought he was. I think he's still going to do really well, especially with those two running backs who are track stars. They're going to be awesome to watch this year.
Jaya, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think they're definitely the underdogs. And they do have a lot of potential. Grant brought up Quentin Nelson. I agree. I think he's an excellent athlete. You know, he has amazing strength, movement, awareness on the field, and quick feet. So he can really deliver. Their running backs are solid. And like he said, you know, they're just going to have that protection. So it's going to be a lot easier for them to perform. I think that the Colts, I wouldn't count the Colts out at all, but I do think, like you said, they're very underestimated, which they can use to their advantage in this case. So I'm looking forward to just seeing what happens with them this season.
Yeah, and, you know, with all these offenses, we're in for, you know, an absolute treat in 2021. The fans coming back in the stadiums, you know, offenses are going to be electric, stadiums are going to be electric. This is going to be a fun season. That's going to be it for us today. Just thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe to the Sports 2.0 Network. We've got a lot of great content and a lot of great shows that you should watch. With that being said, I'm Akshay Kumbar, joined with Jaya Williams and Grant Mitchell. Thank you for watching.